Welcome, Inner Circle members. I'm Charles Lewis, and welcome to this episode of our monthly training sessions. Today we're going to be talking about photography. And we love this stuff, and it's going to be great fun. Joining me today, of course, is my son and business partner. I guess in that order, yes. Son first, of course, and then business partner, Mr. Todd Lewis. Hi, Todd.
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here. We're doing a little bit of a different format today. We're going to be sharing our webcams so you can see us. We're going to be looking at the very same images that you're looking at on your screen, and we're going to be talking about the details of exactly how these were created, from a lighting, a posing, a background, all the little details that go into this. And that brings us to our other person that's joining us, whose photographs we're going to be talking about and looking at and enjoying today, and that is Tom Morelli from Brewer, Maine. Hello, Tom.
Jazz hands, everybody. Are you ready for this? Nice to be here in blustery Brewer, Maine today, but it's a lovely day, and I'm awful happy to be here and share some of this with you, and should be a good time.
Right on. It's great to have you here, Tom, and thank you for volunteering to put together these images for us to talk about. I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
Without further ado, let's jump right in right now with this first beautiful image. We have to start, Tom, with a baby photograph, because a large part of the success of your photography business is your baby plan.
I love how, as photographers intrinsically, all three of us, even you, Todd, have placed ourselves on the thirds. We're not centered. Nobody's in the middle. We just know visually interesting. It's better not to center somebody. I had to mention that. We didn't even talk about that.
And it is absolutely no accident. When I plugged this in, I was like this.
Yeah.
And then I just went like this. I've learned. I know what I'm doing, guys. All right. Well, with that, let's go ahead and jump right into this first image. So this baby photograph here, go ahead and first of all, this obviously was done in your studio. This was done, I assume, pre-COVID.
Yes, this was last year.
Great, last year. So talk us through, first of all, what is your setup like here? Because this is so tight, so close in. Just kind of give us the rundown of your lighting setup and kind of what the baby is posed on.
I'm going to set up the setup real quickly. I have to tell you one paragraph. As you view my photographs today, you're not going to see fancy templates, flowing gowns, real unusual, bizarre lighting with skies in the background. I've been watching, during the pandemic, one of the things I love to do is cook. I've been watching Gordon Ramsay. I'm sure you've seen him. He goes into these restaurants and saves them. I love that. It's great. And he talks about keep it simple. Don't do 90 different things on their menus and have one or two good, fresh ingredients. Well, my ingredients are a good expression and keeping it simple and saleable. So, yeah, I do some of the fancy stuff to do for my marketing, but you're not going to see a lot of that today. What you're seeing here are going to be things that mostly people invested in wall portraits or were part of a collage or something that they loved. So I try to keep it simple. Now, having said that, onto this first portrait, with babies, we're really trying to show roundness and depth. And in my studio, even though it's a 24 by 30 foot size, quite a sizable place to work in, there's a very small spot where I have these blankets and things that they lay on. Now, in this case, it's a 4x6 soft box, and that's it, one light, but it's real broad and real soft so that the shadows are real soft. The transition zone on the cheeks are soft. We don't want harshness or specularity or shininess on the skin. And, it helps with retouching, too, because a lot of babies have little things going on, and this is retouched, but the softer your light is, and if it can be in fairly close, it's going to really make a difference in the look. So this baby actually was laying down more, but I tipped the camera so that the baby's going vertically more. So it's realistic, but it's viewable that way. So some are horizontal, some are verticals. And in this case, the trick in newborn photography, as we always talk about, is having a really warm studio. I'm talking like 90 degrees. I have a little white noise generator in the corner that makes that sounds like rain. The babies can fall asleep to, and I allow plenty of time. It's one of the lengthiest sessions I do when it comes to the baby plan, just because you got to set it up because they need to be asleep to do this. So the safety of the babies first, but the lighting, I use a wider f-stop to try to throw the background soft in behind the baby and in the foreground. If I can't accomplish that, when I do post-processing, I throw a little lighter vignette, in this case on that little cloudy kind of looking soft background I have there.
So Tom, question on the lighting then. So you're just using the one softbox.
Yeah.
Whereabouts is that softbox in relation to the camera?
Well, I like reading left to right, so I usually put it on the left for some reason. Maybe it's because I'm left-handed, fuzzy right brain thinker. But my default, because the light during the entire baby session never moves. I don't move it around. I'm not going to corrective lighting. I'm not looking to create loop lighting or triangle lighting, all this stuff. I'm really looking for soft, directional, enhancing lighting, but that's more than just illumination. We want to create roundness. So it's about 45 degrees above the camera, 45 degrees to the left of the camera position in this case, so that it falls on the mask of the face. If I had put that light on the other side, on the right, obviously the baby's face would be in shadow. Sounds simple, but sometimes when you get into the parents are nervous and the baby's crying, you forget where you put your lights. And you're like, oh no, later on you go, oh, the light was in the wrong spot. Well, inherently now I set that setup. It's the only one that's static, so to speak. The baby plan, the lighting is not real fanciful. It's just designed to really show those great skin tones and roundness. And so as you can see, the light is above, and it doesn't really throw much of a shadow into the nose. It's kind of right above the baby's nose.
All right.
In this case, the baby was really more like this, but I tipped the camera so the baby's like this.
Okay, so just watching the time, gentlemen. Anything else that you want to talk about on this one, Tom? And if not, Dad, anything you or our members want to ask about this image?
I'm good on that one.
Yeah, there's a main thing. If you talk rules, maybe we should talk rules. Rules are made to be broken, but as a general rule, when photographing babies, whenever humanly possible, you want to aim for having the hands up close to the face so that there's not arms sticking out that drag you away from the face. And you notice how beautifully he has worked to get this baby's left arm underneath the cheek so that it's perfectly, this all holds together artistically very beautifully. Nicely done, Tom.
And it's realistic, and we sometimes extend that the baby can get both hands under there or one here and one here. There's variations on that, but the idea is you're not cutting off a limb at the edge of the photograph, which is very a no-no.
And then I just want to mention one other thing that we'll probably talk about again, but Tom did mention it right off the bat. Rule number one of portrait and wedding photography is what? What's the number one rule? Expressions sells photographs.
Good. So let's start with that here. This is a good example. So talk about, getting the expression from this young man here, because expression sells photographs. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, his grandmother called me and said, you did my senior portraits. And then I did her son's senior portraits, actually all three different sons. And this is one of the son's little boys. So I did grandmother and the son's senior portraits, and now the little boy who's just adorable. And he has an uncle that flies a plane. And his uncle has taken him up in it. So he's fascinated. He wants to be a pilot. He loves it. So his uncle got him this little wooden carved airplane. Makes me want to cry because these are true stories, and it's so sweet. He was so proud. He came in with this thing, and he's like, look, because he knew me I'd photographed him before in our baby plan. And so he just brought that in, and he was so proud. And his grandmother had knit him this. It's not necessarily something I would pick in a family portrait. His outfit's a little busy, but it was January or February. It was cold and snowy here in Maine. He wore it in, and she said, oh, he loves this, and I made it for him. And so, and these folks, this was a substantial family group that we did. This was just one little part of it. So again, that's 4x6 softbox, my white sweep, the plain vinyl background with a couple lights on it. They're not blasting too much so that the white comes around the subject and overpowers them or flares into the lens. So they're usually a stop or two less than my main light. Didn't use a hair light here of any sort just because the background light kind of kicked in. You could do that, but he was moving around quite a bit, so any kind of hair light or kicker lights, he might have gotten too close to. So you have to be careful of that with children. But that expression is number one. Look at his they love his eyebrows. I mean, we did this in the consultation. Oh, when he smiles, his little eyebrows go up. So I watched for that, and she said, his two little front teeth, he's going to lose those. I want to show those, and just on and on, everything. He even had cut his own hair, and it grew back, but she left that little piece, and I said, you want me to, I could fix that? No, that's him. So those little details that you find out about each person are crucial, but he's looking straight in the camera. Yes, usually we try to have one ear not showing with more traditional portrait work, but they loved they even mentioned that we want his ears to show, things like that. And so, this just accurately portrayed them. This is a 1620 canvas. It went in with a bunch of other far more adequate size of the bigger group. A lot of love groupings, and these folks are just terrific to work with. And
all right.
That little expression, though, is when they saw that, they cried. And I only got a couple of him when I projected it. That's it. That's what we want.
All right. So I got a question, Dad. Let me know if we have any questions from our members at all. So you said he was moving around a lot. So
yeah.
I assume then you had to kind of keep your camera, fast. What kind of lens were you using on here, if you didn't mention that already?
Yeah, I have a 24 to 105 lens that I use in the studio for children, my baby plan, because and the sweep itself is 18 feet wide. It's on a motorized background, so I can lift it up and down because I'm too old to pick that up, but it's vinyl. It's really heavy. And so they can, and the 4x6 softbox is feathered enough so that they can go quite far either way, and I only gain or lose maybe a half a stop over or underexposed. And so on this case, I'm not using a tripod. The family group on a tripod, even in the studio, it's on a tripod just so that, I can peek around and get expressions and so forth. In this case, I'm working kneeling or sitting sometimes with babies, but he can walk back and forth on that, and the lighting stays fairly consistent. And I try to start them in the middle, right where the light's perfect, but as they move around too much, sometimes if you're trying to go for the perfect, you miss these great expressions. But he has to be in the right spot here.
How important is, thinking this stuff through ahead of time for photographers, knowing, I'm going to have this child in here and he's this age, and boy, his mom said he's pretty active and he runs around. I got to be prepared and know what lens, what lighting I'm going to use, what, I'm going to have to be a little faster, maybe not use a tripod so I can move around. How much prep do you do mentally that way?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. People talk about having good luck. Well, good luck really is opportunity plus preparation equals good luck, meaning you're ready and the opportunity comes and knocks and you go, come on in, let's take advantage of this.
So if you can back up to that previous one, Todd, I'd like to know if you can remember, how did you get that wonderfully natural expression?
That is a great question, young man. You're going to be a good photographer someday. Children this age particularly, I think he's 7 or 8 years old. They're just fascinated with silly stories. And I'm not talking say words like, say stinky feet, things like that. They've heard that a million times from school photographers or sometimes their parents. One of the hardest things you have to do being a diplomat is the parents and well-meaning grandparents, if they're in the camera room watching, I have to urge them, trust me with this, you're paying me for this, let me get the expressions, because they want to shout, say cheese. They always say, oh, come on, that wasn't a good smile. Well, nothing will deflate your subject, whether it's a high school senior or a teenager or a child. If a parent goes unapprovingly, that wasn't a good smile, that was a fake smile, you see them deflate. And I always tell them, it's the one after the fake smile that you're going to love, but you got to let me get that fake smile out of the way. So watch this. And I'm like, just watch. Here, hold my beer. I don't say that, but and so mentally I say it. And so in this case, I just talk. I'm like, do you go up in that plane? Just funny things. I'm like, do you actually drive an airplane? No. I'm like, do you ever want to fly an airplane? We just talked. Did you drive here? They've got a little car. Anything to pertain. And I'm like, what's that plane sound like when it goes off? Does it go moo? And they go, no, it goes. And I'm like, is that, and they smile and they laugh. So you're just having a conversation on their level, which for me is pretty easy for a 7-year-old. And so just entertainment. But you got to be ready, because the second they smile like that, he turned away and took off. So you got to be ready for it.
That's right. Thank you, Tom.
Let's take a look at this one here. So obviously, we've got a little violinist here, and it's great that you're integrating her passion into these images, which is always a good thing to do, regardless of the subject, but certainly with kids, with seniors and stuff like that. Let's first start with the lighting setup here, because this one looks like it potentially could be a little more complicated than the one we saw before, but maybe not. So what's your lighting setup for this one?
This is still pretty simple. This is my 4x6 softbox, in this case off to the right. I'm pointing to the right photograph. But so that because I felt like that was the angle I wanted to get so I could see her hand, what it was doing. If we turned her the other way, we would have lost the bow hand, so to speak. And she had that little pink. She was training, and they gave her that little pink thing that goes on the end, and they wanted that left on there because that's part of how they train her to hold her fingers. I photographed this little, actually, I hate to say it again, but I photographed her dad's senior portraits about 30 years ago. And so they came in, and he is an older dad, and I can say that because so am I. So he and his wife have a great real estate business. They're very sweet people. We've become friends, and he says, I need things for the walls of my office. So we've done family portraits every year, and they're everywhere, but he always brings her in, and she's really good on this little, very proud of it. So I tell her to play for me. So the lighting really is pretty simple. I have a very low power background light behind her. I vignetted it a little bit, obviously post, and that one 4x6, no hair or kicker on that one either. Nothing apparent right there.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so again, keeping it fairly simple, but again, the expression, the connection with the instrument, is so very, very important. Dad, any questions you have about this one? Or
I have comment. It's so interesting, Todd, and I know you're trying to keep us on schedule here, but this is really good stuff here. Every time you ask Tom something like, talk to us about the lighting, what does Tom talk about?
The people.
The people. You see, this is why Tom is so successful, is because he is focused in on the people. And he just can't help himself. I mean,
we're going to try, though, to keep him talking about the other stuff.
We'll try.
That's an important point that you're making, so go ahead, Dad.
Yeah, we'll try. But it's very hard because that's Tom. Yeah. And he's talking about the story behind the photograph, which brings me to another rule. And these are my rules, okay? You don't have to use them if you don't agree with them. This is about props. Props are anything that a subject is actually touching in an image. There are different things like set dressings, okay, where they're in the image but they're not touching them. Props are something that they're actually interacting with or touching. And in this case, and in almost every case that with Tom and with myself, is that if it's a prop in that image, it's their prop. You ask them to bring it so that it's theirs. We want these images to be so heartwarming and so emotional that they will indeed proudly and love displaying it on their walls.
Yeah, and so you can tell.
Kudos to Tom.
Because you can tell from this image
people
that she knows that instrument. You can tell. You can tell by the way she's holding it. You can tell by the way her posture is. You can tell by the way she's looking at it that this is her instrument. It's not one that Tom threw into her hand and said, pretend you play the violin, or threw into her hand and said, well, I know you don't have your violin here, so why don't you use this one? You can tell that connection. Just like you can tell the connection between two people in an image. Go ahead, Tom.
If just to throw in, as a musician myself, if you're photographing a high school senior or child with any kind of instrument, saxophone, guitar, piano, whatever, rarely do I have them look at the camera. I might do use it as a prop in one like this, but if they're playing, I'm having them look where their eyes would naturally go. It looks more realistic. Sometimes I have them close their eyes. I have like a saxophone player lean back and close their eyes, almost like they are really playing. Now, I really have them play. I said to this girl, what do you want to play for me today? Because she's been in here before. And she starts, so she's actually playing right there. And so I wait till the bow is where I want. But there's multiple. And then I have her turn. I did a true profile of that sweet little nose with her playing. I still had all the elements in there. It's tough to pick things because she's adorable. But this was one I thought represented that session. But they can close their eyes. The parents are like, look at the camera, like, shh, let's have her look at her fingers.
So let's talk about that a moment, Tom. So how much do you communicate that with the parent before they get there?
Yeah.
To not talk too much, to not, how much do you prepare them?
I tell them, of course, when we do a design consultation or when we do the go see if I'm going to their home or if they're coming here, I tell them, first of all, when you get here, you're more than welcome to come in, especially if it's a child, obviously. A lot of the high school seniors have mom there, but that's about it, maybe some friends. But I tell them, now, this is going to be really tough for you because I know the urge is you're going to want to tell them what to do or tell them to smile. So I really kind of tell them that story. And I'm like, I jokingly say, and I've said this for years, I walk around afterwards with a push broom, the tongues that got bitten off because you had to bite your tongue, not to say anything, but it's okay, I'll give them back to you. But the only way I get the expressions that I get, and that's one of the reasons you came to me, is you'll just have to watch and see. So resist saying don't do that, or don't make sure you don't tell them we're going to see a photographer, you better be good for him or her. Don't say that. Mr. Marley would be mad if you don't smile. Womp, womp, womp. So, I warn them or, give them the instructions, and they appreciate it because they want something really good too.